Oh, cock. I've been muted for the past minute. That's bloody great, isn't it? Ah, lovely. Yep, listening back to it, I'm muted. Fantastic. Fan-bloody-tastic. Well done, me. Sign of my fatigue. Well, I opened the show by saying hello to my fatigue, but I've got a load to edit out now, so I just need to remember to do that once the video finally processes. It takes like a whole day. Anyway, so I need to kind of reiterate what I was saying then. So first of all, hello, welcome to LOP Radio, the LOP Radio NXT review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube and also available in podcast form. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net for all your wrestling news. Today we're talking about NXT and the kind of overall show. For me, this NXT episode felt the most like an old school episode of NXT, purely because of the... how do I word it? Purely because of the blasting through everything in the first hour, and then you got your main event. So like 45 minutes into the show, me as a British viewer, wasn't an hour obviously because of the adverts. And so about 45 minutes in was when the entrances were being done for the main event. So it really did feel like an old school episode of NXT, purely because they blasted through all of that stuff. Then we get to like the main event itself, and I do want to address that. Before I get into the main event, I just want to give a shout out to Casey Michael, who passed away. The news came out in the hour before I came live. 26 is nothing. I'm only 28, and thinking about that is kind of crazy. So I guess I don't want to say in his honour, but in terms of covering the match, I'll try and be as positive as possible in terms of covering the wrestling tonight. But I am asking the question: is the negative reception to the ending of the 4-man, 1-hour Ironman match deserved? And to delve into that, I've got to go into a bit of the negativity. But the one thing that I'm not seeing, I finally caught up with myself before I muted it, in terms of the, perception of this, is the reason I was such a big fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, why it's jumped up to being my number one, is because of the phrase, time investment equals reward. Or how much reward do you get for your time investment? And my big issue with WWE at the time, when I jumped over to New Japan, which would have been 2014, really got into it in 2015, was that little measurement there. The amount of time that I'm investing, what is the amount of reward that I'm getting back in terms of enjoyment, in terms of how much I'm enjoying these characters, in terms of how much I'm seeing these characters that they're asking me to get invested into, to seeing them succeed, into seeing them grow. And that got worse and worse as the years went on, from 2014 to the end of the decade. It feels like they've made a real U-turn during this lockdown period, more out of necessity, but the fact they've made it, I can praise them for that. But New Japan, I felt like the more I watched it, the more I got out of it, the more rewarded I felt for getting into these characters, to watching their journey, watching their adventure. And that peaked until, I think it was 2018, when it was Tetsuya Naito versus Kazuchika Okada. That was years upon years of building, of investment, of reinvention, finding yourself as a character, as a wrestler, building a whole new kind of world around yourself. And that was amazing to watch. Just that, reaching that peak moment, and arguably last year, or I guess this year, 2020. God, it feels like last year, January, doesn't it? But I feel like that peak moment was years and years of investment, like a 7-year length of story from one point to the next. And I loved that. It was great. Tonight's main event signifies my biggest problem with WWE in terms of time investment and reward. And they gave us a fantastic main event match. Just want to get that off my chest first. I thought the match was brilliant. I enjoyed every moment of it. One leg up I had, I didn't see any spoilers. I knew nothing about the ending. All I knew was that I'd seen some people say spoilers are out, and some people were being quite negative about it. And I guess shout out to Rich Latter. He was like the first guy that I saw, Rich Latter of One Nation Radio, and Swerve Studio. But he was sort of tweeting out about the negativity on the main event. And I saw that. I was like, right, I'm going to check out. I'm going to leave it to see what it was. Because it might be Rich being rich. Or it might be something I generally would also find. So I left it. But that's all I knew. And because it's wrestling, there's a very strong chance I wouldn't mind. So I didn't know anything. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how it ended or anything. was like, God, do they do like just a full-on draw, like a 0-0, and just do it again or something? But my issue with it is its time, investment, and reward. And after 60 minutes, after going through that journey, I really did enjoy the journey. I thought that was really well done. And even if it was every guy was even until right at the end where you get a succession of falls, like even if it was that, it's a bit of a shame that all of that time investment essentially for like your reward is seeing somebody getting crowned at the end and getting that jubilant moment, and that time investment was just used to then try and get you to tune in next week, which is a TV trick that's used quite a lot, as in it builds up and builds up and builds up, and just when it's about to get to that moment that thing's building up to all episode, that crowning moment, that's when they kind of just hold it off till the next week. And like Walking Dead was sometimes awful with that. It would build and build, and when it gets to the thing you've been dying to see, they hold it off till next time. Or even next season sometimes. But it's a time and reward issue. Because 60 minutes is a long time. And I guess another thing in terms of people complaining, there is already precedent for what happens if a match ends in a draw, is you just do overtime. And so, it's 4 people. Well, you do overtime with the 2 people on 2. That's it. And because there is that precedent where every time in the past there's been an Ironman match and it's been a draw come the end, every single time it's gone into overtime. So I feel like in terms of fan complaints, that's another thing where if we haven't seen previous precedent, where if we have not seen it in the past where it ends in a draw, therefore you go into overtime immediately. Instead, we're getting overtime next week. William Regal did shout, "It's overtime," or something. Sudden death, that was it. He shouted that it's going to be sudden death next week. But it's the hook to try and get you to tune in next week. I'm reviewing the thing, so obviously that's never a decision I have to make. It's out of my hands. But still, that's my only negative. Really, I see the idea that's being played here. Personally, in terms of, again, time investment and reward, after such a massive time investment, again, if this is a 30-minute Ironman match, I still wouldn't recommend it, but it's not as bad. It's because it's 1 hour. It's such a long period of time to get a decisive winner that the fact you then use that to build up to next week, personally, 1 hour is too much time. You're asking too much of a time investment from the viewer to then do the knock-on swerve, essentially, try and get them to tune in next time. 1 hour is too much for a match. You can do that. You can do it after multiple matches, just not a 1 hour Ironman match. That feels like a definitive and final kind of stipulation. That's my personal take on it. I really enjoyed the match. I will enjoy the match next week. The biggest con really is that Finn Balor's winning. Adam Cole's not winning. Like he's held the title for so long. It's going to be a bit silly to give it him back. And it's kind of like it's so certain that Finn Balor's winning that the amount of tension and investment I had in this match isn't there next week. And that's not great as a hook. But in terms of getting me excited for next week, because I was really excited for this 4-way. With the 4 men involved, I was like, we're going to get an amazing match, go on such a journey. And we kind of did. It's just a shame that it was all that time investment and your reward isn't really a reward. Your reward is tune in next week, please. It's not the same. So that's my big takeaway from it. It's WWE yet again in terms of time investment and reward. The time investment part far outweighs the reward portion, and it's just par for the course, unfortunately. But the match itself was great, and I'll go into a kind of play-by-play of it later when I go into the run of the card, which I'll be doing next. However, I'm going to take a drink of water first. Don't know why I flicked my finger at the screen. Huzzah! Lovely jubbly. Anyway, let's get on to the rundown of the show. So I'll be going through from the first match, and I'll be going into the main event in as much detail as one probably should. It's not beat by beat, but again, in a 1 hour match, I still want to try and get the essence of it, like how one bit flowed to the other, without just going, they saved the falls till the end. Really, had them all even, and did 2 at the end. It's like, yeah, kind of, but there's a bit more to it than that in terms of like why I really enjoyed it. But on a card where everybody was really tuning in for that much hyped main event, they gave us a 6-man street fight. Like a fun old opener this. A big old weapony brawl. And it's like, yeah, it was great to see our faces proving themselves in a chaotic environment, which we assumed would be perfectly suited for our heels. And I wasn't expecting this kind of match to be on this card. Again, which could have been a one-match card. You didn't need as like hot a first half than you did the second half. And maybe it says something that Johnny Gargano, before the show even aired, put out there. Just enjoy the wrestling tonight. Like, let's not complain. Let's just enjoy the wrestling. It's like, something amiss. Again, that was the other thing I saw with Johnny Gargano, then which Latter's tweet. I'm like, right, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it now. But yeah, we started off on a really fun note. Like, our faces proving themselves in this chaotic environment. Before the break, they were fully reigning supreme, singing the high note of fire extinguishers spraying the legado. That was, again, ending on such a fun note to go into the break. After the break, things had really swung and only really gotten worse for the faces, especially for Tyler Breeze. Getting beaten down at ringside by Wilder Mendoza, finally getting to his feet when he was knocked right back down by Eichner and Bartel running in. The odds really against him as he got beaten down 4-on-1 before getting rolled back into the ring to be up against an even worse 5-on-1 with the El Legado del Fantasma leader there. When Fandango and Swerve rolled up atop a forklift. Paul Howard from the front on a forklift. How can you surprise somebody? How can you surprise attack somebody from the front on a forklift? Like, it's difficult enough to surprise attack somebody from the front, because they can see you. But to do it on a forklift, like, oh, that is some special ninja powers. Like, snuck up on them from the front like real ninjas. So, just don't think about it, Matt. Just don't think about it. Breeze helps clean up. Swerve slams down Escobar and pins the Cruiserweight Champion. I forgot to say, they both, Fandango and Swerve atop the forklift, both like somersaulted off of it. They both jumped off it onto the 5 men, catching them by surprise. But yeah, don't think enough about it. I enjoyed it. It was a fun match, and it fit the tone of the fun match. Where it was technically a street fight, but still it was like mostly still in that realm of fun. And I thought Breezango did a really good job of remaining fun whilst kind of upping the ante a little bit, using the weapons whilst also then doing fun stuff as well. But yeah, Swerve picks up the pin, pinning the Cruiserweight Champion. If I'm right, that's either the first time he's been pinned or I think he got pinned in the tournament. Either way, like, Swerve being put over strong, and it was a really fun way to kick off the show, which then took us on. Again, you can't top sneak attack from the front on a forklift. It's just, I love that. VTR on the latest We Used to Be Friends NXT Women's Arc. They're not always bad. They just run this angle a lot, like really a lot. It's reached a point now where I kind of zone out of these. It's like, oh, it's another arc in the NXT Women's division of We Used to Be Friends. Now we've fallen out, we're not. It's like, you can do more than this. Like Rhea Ripley, Mercedes Martinez, that is more than this. And that's great to see. It's just a shame that we're seeing it so often in the women's division. It's like, just try something new. It's fun. You don't have to do the Friends angle all the time. But instead it's into Candice LeRae versus Katie Catanzaro, who was accompanied by Caden Cross. Was it Caden Carter? Oh, that's done me in. Anyway, it's been a while since we've seen Catanzaro, like someone who's always impressed as a smaller underdog with incredible athleticism. Katie got in her own run of offense. Unfortunately, she hit a countering wall in LeRae in the end, reversing her scissors and grounding her down, locking the legs before stomping her face down hard into the mat. She is out. 1, 2, 3, Candice wins. After the match, the victor cuts a promo on Tegan Nox. Mentions how, they legitimately were friends. And how, like Tegan, Candice also wants to patch things out. And she invites Tegan Nox out to dinner. I mean, if this ends up with a Gargano house skit, then I'm down for it. Like, I love those things. It's seemingly satirising suburban America as well. It's just like a added detail to the wackiness to it. It's like, we're not just suburban America, suburban wrestling fan. I guess America as well. I love those kind of quirky segments where it's normal house, but something not right. I love the feel of it. Rhea Ripley is backstage and she cuts a promo to camera on Mercedes Martinez, challenges her to do a steel cage match so she can rip her limb from limb. Ripley's just awesome. Like, seriously, she's number one in my call them up yesterday list. And I feel like at WrestleMania she proved how great she is. And now she feels like the, I guess, best star in NXT, period. So the fact that she's not called up is strange, because he's more than ready. But then again, you look at the main roster and they're figuring stuff out. Like Rhea Ripley, she gets to have a great feud and put over and help get Mercedes Martinez over in NXT, and herself come across as an absolute badass, whilst she doesn't get wasted and not used on the main roster. Like, if she would have got Bianca Belair, it's like, yeah, I much prefer this to flat out not being used. Like, yeah, so much more. Next up, Bronson Reed versus Timothy Thatcher. First off, Bronson Reed's video, absolutely amazing. My God, the kaiju entrance, it is fantastic. I love the effect that the buildings give. And I have retweeted it. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting that out there. So I could just find it and immediately retweet it. But my God, the effect of the buildings kind of going by as he's walking forward, it looks amazing. It's a nice visual effect. I don't know if they could pull it off on with the way the LED boards are arranged on the main roster, because I was just thinking seeing it on those boards might be even more impressive. But on the NXT setup, it looks absolutely amazing. And like, all the kudos into the world to whoever designed that, whoever put that together. It generally looks fantastic. But he had a match against Bronson Reed after... He didn't, he was Bronson Reed. Against Timothy Thatcher after that amazing entrance. This show, first off, moving along at quite a pace, like bashing through everything in time for the hour-long main event. The Big Aussie, don't know why I did a fifth point for the Big Aussie, really proving himself against the overly confident in his abilities Thatcher. A nice spot with Timothy kicking up from the ground, so Reed just jumps on him. Genius. Thatcher zoning in on the forearm of the Australian, tearing at the joint, torquing that one limb over and over. But Bronson hits his offense after offense, just using the other arm. Smart man. A straight shot knocks Thatcher back. A nice bounce off the ropes into an elbow as well. A dive to the outside, leading with said elbow. Upping the ante in athleticism as well. Just another nice touch for the big man. The latter, being the dive to the outside, however, ended up with him still landing on the worked on arm. Ending up hitting him slowly, making his way to his feet, clutching at the thing. When Austin Theory ran down and clobbered him from behind, Theory levelled Reed and rolled him back into the ring for Thatcher to willfully feed on the scraps, wrenching back the arm and eventually forcing the big man to submit. Like, yeah, nice little match this, setting up multiple, I guess, feuds for Bronson Reed as well. Like, I'll call it the North American Championship kind of scene of NXT, of a couple like hopeful lads kind of growing. It's building nicely. Again, you've got Timothy Thatcher, you've got Bronson Reed, you've got Austin Theory coming back, you've got Damien Priest in there as well, and Cameron Grimes, who, again, was the linchpin of that ladder match. I loved him. It's all building really nicely. After that, we got Mercedes Martinez accepting Rhea Ripley's challenge for a steel cage match next Tuesday. They're building up Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday. I'm bloody calling it that next week. You can't stop me with my crappy pun. This week was spicy chicken because of the font they used, really looking like they get your spicy chicken. Just font they use on those adverts. I was like, oh, it's Spicy Chicken Tuesday. I'm going with it. And I forgot to eat any spicy chicken beforehand. I said I'd go all in last week, and I haven't. Apologies. Right, now for the main event. Again, this was a 1 hour Ironman match with 4 men, where it kicked up the pace quite a few times. So I'll see how well I did with my notes. But the main event to crown the new NXT Champion, or did it? Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole versus Finn Balor versus Tommaso Ciampa in a 4-man 1 hour Ironman match. Oh, stipulation upon stipulation. 1 hour is a long time. Like, a lot can happen, like such wild swings of momentum. And Finn Balor controlled the initial minutes, like always managing to keep 2 down whilst walloping 1 in the ring. Like, Gargano was eventually able to play opportunist Adam Cole was the one on the end of most of the offense, like only really managing to like get through some like fight like 10 minutes in, just like throw out some fight 10 minutes in. But the initial stages strongly followed the 2 in the ring formula, like my least favourite of the multi-man matches, but this was a 1 hour match, so I kind of forgave them. And like the only combination in that not played was Gargano and Ciampa. They held that one off. It kicked up a tad about 20 minutes in. So my worry was half an hour in or 40 minutes in. 20 minutes, it's still not, preferable, but it's understandable as well. Like they're setting the groundwork, they're kind of slowly building it up. And that was when all 4 exchanged kicks, and they were all kind of down, shortly followed by 3-man Tower of Doom spot. Adam Cole still on the end of pretty much everything, but the pace slowly quickening. Cole completely unable to follow up with offense after he gets back in on stuff, like Ciampa holding him off and Gargano eventually running in. The Undisputed Era man tried to spin Johnny off of him, but ended up in the Gargano escape. Balor runs in and flips into... Ciampa runs in and flips into a Fujiwara armbar on Balor. There we bloody go. I was picturing it again in my head. The point being, Gargano's got the Gargano escape on Cole, and Ciampa has an armbar on Balor. Oh, the old days of DIY. Nice little pop from me. That would have got a huge pop from an actual crowd, but from the, not from the WWE 2K crowd, essentially. It's, not the same. Both men make it to the ropes and fight the DIY lads off, though. There was a nice spot with Cole and Balor two-sweeting. It's like, that's the character stuff that I love. Both former Bullet Club men of different generations. I love that kind of stuff. That's the stuff I love. But the Prince immediately turns and throws Adam out of the ring to follow up with a plancha. Balor runs riot. John Woo dropkicks for everybody. Back in the ring, and the coup de grace to Cole, 1, 2, 3, and Finn Balor scores the first fall of the match by just purely gaining momentum and not letting go. Big thumbs up for not waiting for no falls till the end. That was my worst fear. In a 4-way match, it's like, no, it would be too chaotic. Surely somebody would get caught. It makes a lot more sense when you've got more men like that. Like, a 4-man run of chaos really dictated a different approach, and I'm glad they went with that. Like a nice follow-up as well, with that pin essentially putting a target on Finn's back. No rest with him having to smartly fight off the other lads for as long as he could. Ciampa eventually grounded his pace before Cole's run-in failed, with him ending up crashing down after a powerbomb onto the double knees. But Balor broke up the fall. Gargano in, also caught into the powerbomb double knees, broken up again by Balor. Ciampa having none of it, straight into a third attempt, this time driving Finn himself down onto the knees. But the Irishman kicks out. That sequence was amazing. I loved that. I can't remember. There were a lot of parts that happened in picture that were like generally great sequences, and like in the opening match as well, in the street fight, there was a table bump in the picture. It's just like, my God, they're really going out there and having fantastic matches, but it's happening in picture, which is really strange. It's just this match had so many kind of great sequences that were happening. Anyway, Ciampa's in disbelief at Balor's kick out. He tries to repeat the devastating spot from last week and goes to Adam Cole to drive him up into the metal frame of the ring. But Balor's there again, stopping it all. But he pays the ultimate price as he meets a fairy tale ending in the ring when Gargano sneaks in, pushes Ciampa out and steals the pin. And Gargano joins Finn on the scoreboard, and Ciampa, obviously the tension builds. He just can't get a pin. Ciampa, obviously pissed, goes after Gargano. But he's lost focus on Adam Cole, who nearly scores a pin on... what's Ciampa's nickname? I call him Daddy. Ciampa turns Cole inside out as he tries to follow up with a last call and instead gets clotheslined. But he himself can't capitalise thanks to Finn, who can't because of Gargano. The pace... like the final half hour really kicking up the pace, with all 4 men jumping in and countering at such a rate. And this is where A, gets really difficult to kind of keep up with notes, but 2 is when I really got into the match. And I really liked how the pace was kicking up as it went along. With Gargano tried to cut down Cole, but gets caught, and the Undisputed Man capitalises with a Panama Sunrise 1, 2, 3, Adam Cole on the board. Time's ticking down. Ciampa's desperation growing. He's still not on the scoreboard. He's now the only one. He tries to capitalise himself with a running knee to Gargano, but his former partner kicks out. No pissing about. Draped DDT to both Cole and Gargano before following up with a fairy tale ending to Cole. This time, Finn Balor's too worn down at ringside to break up the pin. And all 4 men are finally on the board for the last 20 minutes of the match. Now you can ramp up that tension. We know exactly where this is going. I personally wouldn't mind, if you want, you could do a pinfall a little earlier, but what they're going for was that dramatic finish. All 4 men putting themselves up via the ropes. No one standing tall after an exchange leaves them all down. Ciampa and Balor in the ring, really seeing the tunnel determination to score the pin. Tommaso again and again covering Finn, then following up with 2 running knees to the corner. Daddy Ciampa refusing to lose that control. He goes for an air raid crash to Adam Cole on the apron, but is fought off. Cole taking the match to the ring. Ciampa again going for the air raid crash, this time off of Brett's rope, but Adam flips out, can't powerbomb the man, so instead just kicks him in the surgically repaired knee and drags him into the centre for a submission. And this became Ciampa's pain for the rest of the match. Balor runs in and breaks it up with the submission that Cole was doing before locking in his own. Cole back in. Ciampa tries to fight him off and putting it on another submission, but again gets locked down. It's I really like this. Both men wanted to win so much that they were taking it in turns to try and make Ciampa tap. Tommaso Tapper? No, Tapasso tap. Let's just leave it. Gargano runs in, twists Ciampa around, which also turns the pain onto Cole, because Cole was putting on a submission still. Gargano turns Ciampa onto his front, which then means Cole's being submitted by the legs of Ciampa, and he locks in the Gargano escape onto his former partner. The innovation from that man. But Balor's there to break it up again, so you don't have to think about how it works for too long, because you're not spending that long looking at it, because Finn just breaks it up. All 4 men back in the ring for the final 10 minutes. And if I'm right, a lot of that happened in picture-in-picture again. Because, again, so many great sequences and building of things and little story notes that were in picture-in-picture. It's so strange. All square, 1-1-1-1, with whoever gets that second pin now, surely it will be a sure thing for them to win. Balor goes to whip Ciampa, but the knee gives in after all that work. A real target for all 3 opponents to zone in on showed itself. This time Finn wrenching down on it. And coup de grace from Finn misses as Ciampa rolls away, and both Gargano and Cole jump for stereo super kicks. Johnny's the one who asserts control, toe-paying onto everybody, but Finn catches him on that attempt and attempts the 1916, I think it's called, on the outside, the elevated DDT. And so a callback to Finn Balor's heel turns and things where he hit that on the ramp. It's oh yes, callback. That's what I wanted from these guys. We've seen Bullet Club kind of teaser things, we've seen DIY teasers, and we got this teaser to Gargano and Balor's feud earlier. Johnny fights through though, instead reversing into a spinning DDT popping off the apron. Cole's back in the ring to meet Gargano and drop the man's head down onto the knee. That's got a different name, can't remember what it is though. Entering an exhausted exchange between those two. Both men tiredly laying in the fists out of frustration. 5 minutes left and neither able to get in any final blow. Ciampa limping around ringside wreaks havoc, stopping Gargano's attempt to tap out Cole and just launching all 3 men around the place. Not even Johnny could stop his charge. Ciampa goes again to hit that elevation into the ring frame, and this time does, driving Gargano into the metal. But Cole's there to break up the pin. The story is still the same for Ciampa. On second attempt, Balor's there. Ciampa realising time slipping away, and he goes back to launching lads at ringside, just into the plexiglass, into tower, metal frames, whatever he could find. Before returning to Gargano, he goes for the ultimate damage, lifts Johnny to the top and hoists for an air raid crash, seemingly whilst also being told, could you slow it down? So he does that. It takes quite a while to get up there. And it's it's one of these where Tommaso Ciampa's so driven. It was, you're looking at it in kayfabe in terms of criticism, he wouldn't take that long. He would be more direct with it. But in reality, they probably started the spot too early, so they needed to slow it down so the ending timing was right. but he nails the air raid crash on Gargano. But Finn's there for the coup de grace. 1, 2, 3, and with 20 seconds left, Finn surely won it. He's on his knees, screaming in victory as those final seconds count down. When Cole runs in from out of nowhere and Last Call driving his knee into the back of Balor's noggin. 1, 2, 3, and we end time with 2 men at 2 falls. Oh, shenanigans. The match ends. They argue between them who won. Regal runs in and shouts at them that they'll be facing each other next week one-on-one for the title. It will be decisive, and it is sudden death next week on Super Tuesday. I said a bloody used Tuesday and I forgot to do it. On Super Tuesday. Right, and that was the controversy at the end. It built and it built. I thought the match was great. I liked the little stories in there. I liked the growing frustration of Ciampa. And in the end, when he was launching folk into the plexiglass at ringside, he was limping the entire time, obviously, because of all the work done on his leg. Like, you really saw the toll of the war that they've been through. And I really enjoyed the match. But the ending was... That's the best way I could sum it up. I really enjoyed the show. I thought the entire show from beginning to end was really, really good. And the main event in particular was fantastic until the ending. Because personally, if you're going to do that, go into overtime there and then. Because that's the precedent that's been set. And it'll feel a bit... You feel cheated, I guess is the best way to put it. Because you, as a viewer, have invested so much time and then it's kind of a fake out. And like in the ending, no, you have to wait. You have to tune in next week to see who wins. So, I guess that's the best way to put it. And most of that feeling comes from the journey being so long, to having so many turns. Like, you've been on an adventure with those 4 men. Like, you got to come see their journey for a 1-hour period without really breaking away from it. And then to have it kind of swerved at the end, it's like, that kind of sucks a bit. But that's my personal view on it. I know loads of people enjoyed it. I know a similar amount were extremely critical on it. Like, for me, it doesn't destroy the rest of the match. I thought the rest of the match was still great and entertaining, but the ending is a bit crap, and that's why I'm conflicted, because I enjoyed the whole episode until the final 30 seconds, or final 1 minute of the show, and it means that the taste at the end of it is a little bit sour because you've got that this is the WWE swerve kind of thing of tune in next week. But again, after you've asked the viewers to tune in for such an amount of time, you don't do that swerve here. You reward the time investment. And but WWE are constantly breaking storytelling and entertainment rules, and quite often at their detriment. And in terms of the question of the show, is the criticism deserved? Yes, 100% yes, it is deserved. The negative reception, I feel like it encapsulates all of the points I've raised. The fact that the show itself was great, the main event match itself, it built and built, it was fantastic, and it was also such a long investment. Imagine it when Okada and Omega. Imagine when they put their 2 out of 3 fall stipulation on, and it ends in a draw or something that takes it over to overtime. Or if they, instead of doing 2 out of 3 falls, they had done an Ironman match and didn't go into overtime. It's like you would feel cheated. You're getting this amount of time to settle it, and at that end you're cheated out of it. It's overtime there and then is different, obviously, because you still get to see the outcome. You still get your reward for the time investment. You're just being asked suddenly for a little bit more, and in those final 5 minutes, often you see the pace kicked up as well, so they're often quite exciting. But here, this was not done right, personally. Anyway, I thought the match was fantastic. I thought the show overall was fantastic. It's just a shame about the actual ending, which means I am conflicted in terms of the tone of how to end this show. It's mostly positive. It's just a shame about, I guess, the ending. Anyway, what do you think? Hit me up on Twitter at the damn Implicat. Comment below, because it's on YouTube, or if you're on iTunes and whatnot, you can 5-star me or whatever people do. I will be back after All Out this Saturday. I might be joining with friends. I need to check up with that. Who's definitely joining me. With AEW, I normally have a friend to join me in Janman, but we'll see if he's actually able to do it. Not double checked. Anyway, so I'll be back for All Out on Saturday, then it's back to Monday, and I'll be back on next Wednesday again for the NXT review, as that airs this time next week again. And I'll edit this video so that it doesn't start with silence for 5 minutes. That was fun. That was really fun checking out. Anyway, with that I say thank you for listening, and that's that. That's the end of the show. Thank you for paying. Oh, go to Wrestling Headlines, all that. Follow them on Twitter at, I think it's at Laws of Pain still, for Wrestling Headlines, and all of that jazz. I plugged Wrestling Headlines. There you go. That's the stuff I normally remembered. Oh, and if you want to support LOP Radio, you can go to our RedCircle page, and on there, for Laws of Pain Radio, you can donate to help keep us going as well. And I just need to remember to do that. If you do want to help us keep going, pushing out all this content, it helps out quite a lot. I'm not pushing anyone to do it. It just really helps. Also on Twitter, stuff that helps, just engagement. Like a viewer, viewing it is enough, but if you do also want to, like, click the thumbs up and definitely subscribe so you can get all our stuff. Click the bell so you know whenever I'm going live, so you get the annoying notifications on your phone. Do you want to do annoying notifications, but the images you pop up with it are my Photoshop stuff? Then click the bell. And yeah. Anyway, with that, thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're doing this on. And with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.